The Jared Dillian Show.
I'm Jared Dillian. This is the Jared Dillian Show. If you want to call to talk about your money, please call 844-305-7800. That's 844-305-7800. This is the Jared Dillian Show. I just had a phone call with an old friend of mine, Coast Guard buddy, who I was stationed out in California with, and he is now an admiral. You talk about feeling old. Oh, my God. The guy, he's a one-star admiral in the Coast Guard. I never had any friends that were admirals before. It's unbelievable. So he's kind of telling me the ins and outs of being an admiral. It's that is how you know when you were old, okay? And I couldn't be in the Coast Guard right now because I am too fat, and that's what happens when you get older. You get fat, and these guys, I don't know, they manage to, I think they have more time to work out. Anyway, I want to talk about fractional shares. We talked about this a little bit last night. We had a caller that asked about fractional shares. This is the worst thing of all the worst things of all the worst things in the world. And a lot of people disagree with me on this. They say this is democratization. We are making the stock market available to everybody. And how can you be against that? How can you be against everybody in the country being able to buy stocks? And I am against it. Not everybody has the knowledge, the experience, the emotional fitness, or the money to buy stocks. And in some cases, people can buy stocks with as little as $5. And it's not good. It's not good. Anyway, let's talk about this a little bit. So fractional shares means that you don't have to actually buy a whole share of stock. You can buy a fraction of a share of stock. Now, in some cases, first of all, if you go back in time, you go way back 20, 30, 40 years ago, not only could you not buy a fractional share of stock, you couldn't buy one share of stock. You had to buy 100 shares of stock. This was called a round lot. You would buy a round lot of stock. I actually bought some stock today. I bought 1,400 shares of a stock. It's actually an ETF, okay? 1,400 shares. 100 shares is a round lot. Anything that was less than 100 shares was an odd lot, okay? And typically the brokerages didn't want to deal with odd lots because it was stupid retail nonsense and it took up their time. And the New York Stock Exchange actually used to keep data on odd lot trading activity. And the theory was that when odd lot trading activity increased, it usually meant that the market was towards the top because there were more retail investors plowing into the market. And these are people who couldn't afford to buy a round lot of stock, so they bought an odd lot of stock. Now we're not even talking about odd lots. We're talking about fractions of a share. Now, in the case of, Amazon's a $3,000 stock. And you say, why is it wrong to buy a fraction of a share of Amazon? By the way, there's also some history around this. There's a stock called Berkshire Hathaway, which is the conglomerate owned by Warren Buffett. And Berkshire Hathaway, the stock, I haven't looked at it in a while, but it's like $250,000 a share. Okay, so back about 15 years ago, they said, well, we're going to have another share class. So we have the A shares, which are $250,000 a share. And I'm going to get this wrong, but the B shares were like 1/100th of an A share. So they were like $2,500 a share. So you could buy the B shares. I don't know what's going on with Berkshire Hathaway right now. When I was at Lehman Brothers, I traded some of the A shares. And by the way, that business, the guy who was the specialist, and the specialist is the person who trades a stock. The guy who was a specialist on the New York Stock Exchange for Berkshire Hathaway was a very wealthy man. He did very well. I mean, typically the bid-ask spreads on Berkshire Hathaway were $200, $300, $500. So anytime somebody bought like 1, 5, 10 shares, he was making $500. And, the volume was 200, 300, 400 shares a day. It was a very good business. And that's actually one of the reasons why I'm kind of getting off topic, but back in the old days, you used to have stock splits. Companies would split their stock, and what would happen was the stock price would get very high, and it would become inaccessible to retail investors who couldn't buy an odd lot of stock. For example, if you were going to buy an odd lot of Amazon, not an odd lot, a round lot. If you were going to buy a round lot of Amazon, it would cost $300,000. Not too many people have $300,000. And furthermore, like if you're buying $300,000 worth of one stock, that means you should probably have about $6 million to have a diversified portfolio of 20 stocks. Anyway, so companies used to split their stock to get it into a trading range where people could buy the stock. And sometime about 10 years ago, companies stopped doing that. They said, well, why? What difference does it make? What difference does it make? You have, if you have one share at $3,000 or 100 shares at $30, it's all the same thing. It doesn't, like, this whole stock splitting thing doesn't make any sense. But one of the reasons it does make sense is because at high stock prices, liquidity deteriorates. Okay, so for a stock that's $30, the bid-ask price is probably going to be about a penny wide. For Amazon, it's not a penny wide; it's significantly wider. And liquidity breaks down. It becomes harder to trade. And that was true with Berkshire Hathaway. Berkshire Hathaway was impossible to trade. And it's because it's a $250,000 stock. Anyway, that's my take on stock splits. But let me explain how this works. It's impossible to own less than a share of stock. Let's say you invest $5 in a $50 stock and 9 other people invest $5 in a $50 stock. Then the brokerage just buys one share of stock and gives the 10 people a proportional interest. The main reason brokerages are offering fractional shares of stock is because of stocks like Amazon and Tesla. Now, Tesla just split 5-for-1, so it actually went over $2,000 today. So now it's going to be a $400 stock. Amazon is still over $3,000. So how you afford Amazon is you save up $3,000 and you pay for one share of Amazon. By the way, I've seen data on one share orders on the exchanges, and one share orders are skyrocketing. Okay. So, but if you're investing $5 in a stock, you should not be investing in stocks. You should be investing in food or just about anything else. And remember, before you invest, you want to build up your emergency fund, which is $10,000 or 6 months of expenses, whichever is greater. Buying individual stocks is a rich man's game. If you're not a rich man, then you should be buying mutual funds. And you should be giving your money to professional money managers. Are you going to build a diversified portfolio of 20 stocks for $5 each? This is why it is best to invest in a mutual fund where you are paying for professional money management. You are not a professional, and you are going to hurt yourself. So save up $1,000 and invest in a mutual fund. Or open an IRA and invest $6,000 in mutual funds over the course of the year. My general rule of thumb is you should not be investing in single stocks unless you have $100,000 saved up. But nobody's going to listen to me. Nobody's going to listen to me. So I had about $20,000 saved up when I first started buying individual stocks. And I was not trying to build a portfolio. I was not investing. I was trying to learn about the stock market. That was my goal. I was trying to learn about the stock market. Now, I actually ended up making money, not much, maybe like $1,000 or something like that. It certainly wasn't life-changing. But I've been trading ever since then, and I've gotten better at it. And there's been times when I've made life-changing amounts of money, but I've also been doing it for 21 years. And it takes lots and lots of practice, decades of practice. Experience counts for a lot. If you are a new investor and you make money, it is completely by luck. We should not be offering fractional shares to people. And the motivation for this, there's a business motivation for this. The brokerages are trying to acquire customers. They're trying to get people to open accounts. They're not trying to make money in the short term. This isn't a matter of being short-term greedy. I'm sure they're losing money on the fractional shares. They're trying to be long-term greedy. They want to acquire these accounts, and some of the small accounts will turn into big accounts, and they'll make money off of them. So this is sort of a land grab to grab as many as accounts as possible. Of course, Robinhood has probably been adding more accounts than anybody. They've been adding 3-4 million accounts this year. This is called the democratization of the stock market. And I disagree with it. I think it's bad. Everyone should not own stocks. Remember, 30% of people should just have cash in a bank account, because not only will they underperform the market, they will lose money. They will find a way to lose money, even in an environment where stocks are going up. 30% of people will lose money in the stock market, even as long-term investors. 99% of people will lose money in the stock market as short-term investors. There was a study of day traders in South Korea. This is fascinating. So they surveyed a couple thousand day traders, and what they found was that 80% of them quit after 6 months. They gave up. It was too hard. They were losing money. They quit after 6 months. And 99% of them were unprofitable after a year. Only 1% was profitable. And those people just had enough money to pay their bills with nothing left over. I'm Jared Dillian. This is The Jared Dillian Show.
The Jared Dillian Show.